Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Liam the Prove It Guy, author of Limitation Is A Mirage. In this podcast, I will be sharing with you actionable tips, routines and insights that I have gathered over 20 years of extensive study with masters, experts and world-class performers. My hope with this podcast is to save you time, money and frustration, helping you fast-track your way to mastery. Hey, it's Liam the Prove It Guy and welcome to this episode of the Limitation Is A Mirage podcast. Today I just wanted to talk about the fact that you have to do hard shit. You have to be willing to put yourself into situations that you aren't comfortable in, that you don't particularly want to do, just to see what you're capable of. So the last maybe week, 2 weeks, I've been chatting to different people about the pandemic and about how they've had to make changes in their life and they just have struggled to do so. And one of the questions I will ask is, and I'll ask you now as well, and you can put it in the comments or you can just private message me, but think of one thing that you've done, like the hardest thing you've ever done, you've ever had to get through. What was that? So when you're sitting there now and you're thinking about the hardest thing that you ever done, how did you feel after you achieved it or after you got through whatever it was? Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? Do you feel like, thank fuck that's over? Like, what is it that you actually feel once you've overcome whatever problem or obstacle or whatever way you want to word it? How do you feel about that? And what was it? So I would love to hear what it is, but as long as you know what it is, that's the most important thing. Then I asked, name 9 other things. So most people can think of the hardest thing they've ever been through, the biggest struggle they've ever had. But if I say to you, name 9 more, so write down 9 more things that you've actually struggled with, you've actually had to work to overcome, there's a good chance that 90% of people watching this will think, God, I don't know. I haven't got 9 other. You're unable to think of 9 other things. And that's a problem. If you've never trained your body to overcome, or your mind, your body together, to overcome these obstacles, this harder way of life, or when something comes up that actually is going to hold you back, that's going to cause you to feel stress, anxiety, fear, anger, whatever it is, you have your brain has nowhere to go, nowhere to backtrack to go, right, this is how we normally deal with stress. This is what we should do. This is what will help us overcome that. Your stress response, if we want to word it that way, is just like any other response. It's something that you learn over time. So whenever you're at school, you'll learn that there's a certain teacher that you shouldn't mess about with. There's certain teachers that when you go in there, if you know you need to be quiet because they will get angry, you are afraid of people who get angry. So you learn to be quiet and nice in their class. And then there's other teachers that you know you can just play up in and you just go and wreck about in their class. Unless you're someone who's just be nice in school all the time, then you've just learned to be nice at school. Probably again because of if you're not nice, then you'll get bad grades. And if you get bad grades, then you'll get a bad job and a bad life, or your family will shout at you, or whatever the reason is. But again, usually it's because of something that you're afraid of, or running away from something. So whenever we go through something that's very taxing, that actually causes us problems in our life, we run away from that. We don't want it. We don't like it. So we try not to get back to that. Whenever you try to always avoid stress or negativity in your life, then you're never learning how to overcome it. So whenever I went on the boat trip, I talked about the boat about 2 weeks ago. Whenever I went on it, I'm just going to move this camera because it's sneaking away on me for some reason. Whenever I went on the boat trip, the boat trip was hectic. Like, it was one of the maddest things that I ever had to do personally. But whenever I was stressed or tired, I had all these paths that were created. So every time I put myself in a stressful situation, I'm creating a path in my mind. Scientifically, there's a name for it that has just eluded me at the minute. But you're creating like a narrow pathway that's connected from the stressor to how you overcame the stressor, how you worked through it and kept going. So whenever I'm on the boat, I'm able to go back through these tracks and see that this is how I've done it in the past. This is what I've learned. This is where I'm going. But if you're going in this journey and your stressor hits to a certain point and then you cut you just cut and run. That's what you're training your body. You're training yourself that you're not designed to overcome stress. You're not designed to weather the storm. So then whenever you get something that you're up against that's difficult, your natural reaction is to cut and run. So like when I go to the gym, for example, every time I go to the gym, I'm putting my body under some sort of stress. Like you're training your central nervous system to work really hard, get through it. And there's times there where I'm in it and my body is broken and it's just saying, like, we can't do this anymore. You need to sit down, or you need to lie down, you need to go home. But my mind is stronger than my body, and my mind is the master of my body. So sometimes you just have to remind your body of that. You have to just sit there and say, I'm going to do it. This is what we've decided to do. We're going to do it, and we're going to keep doing it until it's over. Again, if I start and the gym's just too hard, and I say to myself, look, it's too hard, I'm going home, and I go home, that's what I'm learning. So whenever you actually actively go out of your way to put yourself in stressful situations, which sounds like a mad thing to say, because again, we're taught to avoid stress. Do your homework, because you won't be stressful the next day trying to explain your lie as to why you didn't. Be good. Do everything is designed towards avoidance of fear, of anxiety, of stress. But if you want to grow as a person, you need to be able to connect to all of these things. You need to be able to connect to how you respond to stress, how you are in a stressful situation, and just controlling your adrenaline, controlling the endorphins that are flying through the body, the after effect of when your adrenaline goes. I don't know if you've ever had an adrenaline dump and your body feels like you want to collapse. How do you pull yourself back and breathe and relax so that you can overcome the want to collapse? That's just your mind being overwhelmed and trying to switch off for safety. Get to the floor, it's safer. And just restart. Once you've passed out, you can just restart again. Whereas whenever you've trained and put yourself into these sort of environments, you've such a better understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing, what you're capable of, how you're capable of it, that you can overcome it. So this would be my, like, it's not really a challenge for you, but it's something to think about. Like, what is it that you do that, what is it that you could do to develop your stress response? What could you do to make yourself like a harder target, to make yourself future-proof, so that if a pandemic comes around, you don't go into complete meltdown? You're used to, like, none of us have dealt with a pandemic, but there's a lot of people that are dealing with it better than others because they have these responses. They have these train tracks in their mind that have said, when they backtrack, they're able to go, well, this was stressful. I did all these things and overcame that. So it's just getting stronger, just like working out any other part of you. Like if you worked out your biceps, you're going to get bigger biceps. If you work out your stress response, you're going to become someone who deals with stress a lot better. Once you do that, it's just going to affect you physically, mentally, everything. So I think about it whenever, like, I've worked with children for years. I started off in youth clubs, and then I became a martial arts instructor and a wrestling coach and everything. The kids that survive the classes the best, that actually proceed and move forward and grade up and keep going and compete, they're the ones whose parents don't settle for it's too hard or I don't like this. Like if the kids in the class and we're doing something, they just say to me, oh, I don't like this, or it's too hard, that is not an excuse to let them stop. If they're being hurt, if it's somehow hurting them, then obviously you would stop it. But if it's just, it's too hard or they don't want to do it, you can help them to, you don't have to push them, but you can develop ways of tricking them, I suppose, into working at the exercise, working harder and progressing through. It's why the belt system in martial arts is so good, because it's something that they can strive to, and every time they get that reinforcement of, that was really good, I'm doing good, and keep moving. So the parents that allowed their kids to cry and be tired and who wanted to give up but didn't be allowed by the parent because the parent pushed them forward into it, they're the ones now that when I meet, like I'm 36 now, so there's some of the kids that I worked with that would have been really young that are in their 20s now, and they're the ones that are more successful. They're the ones that are able to communicate better, interact better. They're able to stand up for themselves, not just physically, but they're able to stand up to themselves in work whenever people are trying to take the piss out of them. They're able to stand up against online bullying, all that sort of stuff, because they've trained that response, the response of you don't give up, you keep moving forward, you will get the reward. And the reward doesn't have to be a medal or something fancy. It can just be the feeling of doing something you didn't think you could do. So whenever if you're sitting here now and you might have wrote out your list of 10 things that you've done, they can be small, like going to the gym. I would count going to the gym. If you work hard in the gym and you get to the point where physically you think, I can't lift anymore, I can't do this anymore. Like I've found myself lying on the floor, having a conversation with myself saying, right, just get the fuck up, get back on the machine, get back on the bike, get back to the bar. You have a certain amount you said you were going to do, you're not there yet, get up and do it. And I find I muster the strength, I go and do it, and after, like I feel amazing after actually doing that, even if it's like an air bike Tabata, which like I'm not a big cardio guy in general. I liked pad work and wrestling and grappling and punching things as like a punch bag or whatever, or sparring as my cardio, but jumping on an air bike and going flat out on an air bike was never really my idea of a fun way to spend your time, which is why now I like doing it, because I get the opportunity to get to the point where I'm completely busted, mentally fatigued and want to give up, body's completely wrecked, doesn't want to do anything more, and then I get to have that little conversation in my head, the wee fighter version of me, not like physically, but the one that just keeps wanting to move forward, keeps wanting to improve, keeps wanting to get better. He comes out and he's just like, shut up, get up, you can complain about it after, and then I just go and get it done. Too many people will give up at the first obstacle, at the first sign of this is difficult. If you could see yourself now in 5 years as someone who's put yourself through adversity and fire, like what would that look like in 5 years? How would you feel about yourself? What would your business look like? Your relationships look like? What would you look like as a person, physically, mentally, emotionally? That is my drive. Whenever I'm thinking about anything that I do, I think about what that's going to do for me in the future. So like leg day, you've seen me talk about it repeatedly. I hate leg day because that's actually tomorrow or today. You'll be listening to this whilst I'm doing legs. Leg day is horrible, but it didn't used to be horrible because it wasn't hard. I used to go in and I would do cardio legs, I would do some skipping and a wee bit of lightweight squats and some lunging and nothing dramatic. So I used to always think when people complained about legs, it's just like every other day. It's hard, but it's not brutal. But now that I'm doing an actual, like I'm following Mark's program, and because I'm doing something that's actually difficult to do and put strain on the body, now I fully understand. And when I try to walk up the stairs after leg day, I feel it. It's actually worse going down the stairs. You think your legs are about to, you'd be like Bambi trying to like waddle your way down the stairs. But I know that's going to make me stronger for everything that I do. I know that stronger legs are going to make me be able to maintain my structure and my posture on stage so I can deliver my message better, which means for me personally that I'm going to look congruent with my message, which I talked about in the last podcast, and that's something that I talk about quite often with my clients. I am not saying here that you should do something I wouldn't do. I'm saying that you should do it because, one, I know I've tried and tested this. I know it works. I know from my research that the science backs it as well. I know all of this is useful, and if you're trying to be a stronger person, then put yourself in situations that you can control to an extent that are safe, like the gym, for example, or going for a run or a long walk, or watching a scary movie if you're scared of scary movies, or going on a high wire walk that you're all strapped in and it's safe if you're afraid of heights. Doing all those sorts of things and pushing through will just teach you what you're actually capable of. I guarantee if you're watching this now, you have more in you than you ever thought or that you ever allow yourself to go. You just have to get over the fear of throwing up. Like I've trained till I'm sick and then just went back training, which I would never advise. It's not necessary. I didn't understand my body at the time when it happened, but it's a really, for me, it was really good because I actually knew where my level was at that stage. And now, because I keep so much notes, if I do that exact same training now, it takes me half the time and I'm perfectly fine with it. So I'm much healthier and fitter than I was at that stage. But also as a PT, when I was doing that, people would say to me, oh, I feel like I'm going to be sick. And I would know exactly what that felt like. So I'd be able to make them do something else, or know if they were lying, which most people were. They would just say they're going to feel sick, but really they're just being lazy. So now, I suppose what I'm getting at is that you should put yourself in a situation where you have to push yourself, where you have to take everything that you've got and then find something extra, like look around and find that little bit that just gets you to the next stage. And every time you do that, it's going to get easier. But it means that whenever you have like something like this happens where the whole world closes down, you have ways of dealing with it. You know that you're capable of pushing through the pain. You know that you're capable of overcoming anxiety or stress. You know how you breathe, how to focus on that. You just know so much about yourself because you've battle tested yourself. And I don't mean battle tested as in, again, I talk about the gym and martial arts a lot, but that was my life for so long and is a massive part of my life still. But you can battle test yourself by speaking in public, by going for a walk, by speaking at the shop, by talking on camera, by making a podcast. It can be anything that you're not 100% comfortable doing, but just doing it and teaching yourself that you can will become something that your body will and your mind will start to connect that and go, look, I know this is hard, but if we keep going, we will get to the end, because we always do. And that's how I've pretty much tried to live my life for the last, since I left school in 2000, so we're on 20 now, so at least 20 years. Like when I was not this person when I was at school. I was the wee tearaway. Teachers hated seeing me coming. I had very little friends in school. I had a group that I was a part of, but I didn't fit in because I didn't smoke, or I just wasn't the cool kid. I was a wee bit of a mentaler. So it's that was why I was probably easier to have around than try to get rid of. And I didn't do any PE whatsoever. I remember my PE teachers, the last yearly report said something like, I haven't seen Liam in 2 years, but I hear he does good in the school band. I was in the school band and the school choir at that stage. So that's what his report. I didn't do PE. I didn't do any exercise. I hated exercise. I wouldn't run. I would do nothing like that at school. I remember in third year was the last year I did any PE. I remember being with Barney Kelly. He was just amazing at nets and just real good all-round footballer and Gaelic player. For anyone that doesn't know what Gaelic is, it's the Irish sport where you use your hands and your feet and like punch the head of each other while you're kicking the ball. That's my experience of Gaelic. I don't really watch it. But I remember standing and just leaning against the goalpost because I didn't want to do anything. And I was in Barney's team and I was like, look, you can just... He was good enough to go and do everything, so I didn't have to do anything. So my PE teacher was happy to not have me around. I would imagine the rest of my team were happy to not have me there because I was just a waste of space in that team environment. And now it's a massive part of my life. So you can dramatically make a change. Like if you've been listening to my videos and my podcasts and things, you'll see that even not only the physical, but the mental side of what I do is completely dramatically changed from when I was younger. Even growing up, like I still would have fought and things growing up, so there was always that sort of aspect in there, but like I had no like passion for anything. I didn't care about school. I didn't want to be in the band. I just knew that it got me out of classes, so I learned the very bare minimum. Like PO taught me the bare minimum of guitar, or of bass guitar. That's why I'm making this movement. Just to get me through the songs that I had to know. I didn't try to learn anything extra. I didn't really practice. I didn't want to be there. I just didn't want to be in class more, so it was a way out. I didn't care about art. I didn't want to draw. I didn't have really favorite movies, or I liked wrestling, but I didn't really care about watching it. And now, like everything I get into, I go full bore into it. I would have been a kid that when we were younger, they would have said like he's just got no ambition, no passion. He's just lazy. He doesn't really care. And now when I go at something, I'm full bore into it. I go with everything I have to learn as much as I can
to benefit myself and the people around me. So I wasn't not passionate or lazy. It was just I had no direction. I wasn't being pointed in the direction of something I actually cared about. So it's worth thinking about. Like, I'll just go back to being any of the parents that are watching. Maybe your kid, you should get your kid to try everything, because you never know what they could be amazing at. I used to tell my school teachers all the time that I could be the greatest horse rider in the world if only someone would give me a horse. Turns out I'm not. I went and Jill let me have a go on her horse one day, and it just wasn't for me. I wasn't the greatest horse rider to ever exist. But I could have been younger if someone gave me a horse. But my point is still valid. The point is, the more you try, the more you can learn what you like, what you dislike, where you want to be in your life, and who you can be. But to pull it back to the start of this conversation, if you want to be a stronger person, then you need to do things that make you stronger. Running away from things that you're afraid of, running away from things that cause you stress or anxiety. Cut it out if you don't need it in your life. But if it's something that you need, like if it's, not that many people are too worried about it now, but if it's going flying, if you want to be able to go flying, then go and do it. Find a way through that, get through the anxiety, get through the pain, just push yourself forward. Practice by going on like long car journeys. Practice by going to the gym and really burning out your central nervous system, so it has to get stronger, it has to get used to stress. Become someone that's comfortable in stressful environments. Then stress will never own you, you will own stress. So thanks again for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing day, whatever you get up to, and I will chat to you on the next podcast.